Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to get started with reading the emergency procedures. If you aren't feeling unwell, please do not attend the meeting, and the meeting can be watched live on Council's website. In the event of a fire, there are two exits from the chambers, one on the west wall and the other on the north wall, onto the balcony and down through the clock tower. On hearing the fire alarm, the Democracy Advisor will show you to the assembly point. In the event of an earthquake, drop, cover and hold until the shaking stops, then wait instructions. Can you please make sure that all mobile phones are switched to silent mode? And a reminder for members to use microphones and that this meeting is being live streamed. Right, I'd like to get underway. Welcome everybody to the Committee Iti Arawaka, the Traffic Subcommittee meeting for Thursday, the 22nd of February 2024. For any members who may be joining via Zoom, please keep your cameras on. If members have a question or wish to speak during debate, please raise your hand. Please keep your microphones off unless you are speaking to an item or answering questions. And welcome to any officers attending via Zoom. Officers attending are asked to keep their cameras and microphones off unless speaking to an item or answering a question. Start of live streaming. Welcome members of the public watching the meeting on the Council's Facebook page. I've already read out the emergency procedures. Would you like to join me with the opening karakia? Whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te tonga. Kia mā kina kina ki uta, kia mā tara tara ki tai. E hi aki en te atakura, he tio, he huka, he hauhu, tihei, mauri ora. Item number 2, apologies. We have apologies for Councillor Tupou. We have a late apology for Councillor Dyer, who's currently in Japan, and depending on his timetable, his train timetable, will be joining us, albeit a little bit later. And today we also have here Councillor Josh Briggs, who's here as an alternate. I move that the apologies received from, late apology from Councillor Dyer and apology for Councillor Tupou be accepted and leave of absence be granted. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Parkin, I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. All those against no. I declare the motion carried. Item number 3, public comment. We have nobody here for public comment. Number 4, does any member have a conflict of interest declaration relating to any item on the agenda? Moving on to number 5, recommendations to Te Kauinihira or Te Awa Kairangi, the Hutt City Council, 27th of March 2024. Starting with item A, proposed new parking restrictions, various locations on page 6 of the agenda. And I invite Amin Shahin, traffic engineer, contractor, to speak to the item. And I'd also like to welcome Evandro Shur. I believe this is your first meeting here, the new traffic engineer. If you'd like to be available to answer questions, do you have anything that you'd like to speak to on this report?
Kia ora. Our transfer engineering team is here to seek for the approval of some traffic resolutions. Okay. Okay. So from the proposals presented today, we have one loading zone on Downer Street in the CBD, as there's currently no loading zone facility in the area. We are proposing also 2 mobility parking spaces, one on Hillary Court by Nanai Library and one on High Street by City Fitness. We are also proposing today 2 time-limited parking. One is a conversion of a P120 to a P180 for customers of the Nanai Medical Center who need more time for their medical appointments. And also we are proposing P5 parking restrictions on Myrtle Street for parking turnover during school hours. On top of that, we have today 3 sections. Yep.
Sorry, excuse me, Amin. I think you've gone on to the next one.
Okay.
We're currently just doing 5A, which is Pick and Save loading zone,
Okay.
Hillary Court and 36 High Street outside City Fitness. Mm-hmm. You've just gone a little bit further ahead onto B. Okay. So if we can just go back to 5A. Yep. Does any member have any question of the officers? Councillor Parkin.
Kia ora. Thank you for the report. In terms of number 3, Hillary Court and the mobility parking, the map that we currently have, or the aerial view, it appears that the ramp isn't currently being promoted via the markings on the ground. And I'm just wondering whether or not that we're following best practice for how we're designating those car parks.
Thank you, Councillor. So normally the hatching goes to the side of the mobility car park. For this particular situation, the lane width is such that it doesn't allow us to add that hatching to the side of the car park. Otherwise, it gives a false perceived level of safety. But given the low volume and low speed of that lay-by parking, if you will, or the little lane there, it's not a major issue that we don't have the hatching. We've moved mobility car park back by one space to, I guess, alleviate the obstruction of the pedestrian ramp that you're referring to. We can potentially put some hatching around the ramp itself to highlight that there is a ramp there, potentially, yep. But we have put yellow lines down to keep that sort of unobstructed. Yep.
Councillor Mitchell.
I have a couple of questions about the different ones here, but I'll stick with the Hillary Court one first. In the photograph on page 12, there's an area that there are actually 2 areas of taxi stands at the end of Hillary Court. There's room there by my count for 9 taxis, which is a bit excessive in this day and age. I don't think I've ever seen more than 1 taxi in there at a time. In the photograph, there's a black car parked in one of those taxi bays, at the back of one of those taxi bays. I just wondered if that area was considered for mobility parking. It's very accessible to Hillary Court. We probably could fit a couple of mobility parks in there instead of just one, and it wouldn't require the loss of the regular park outside the library there. So I was just wondering if that area had been considered as an alternate place for the mobility parks.
For this particular case, thank you, Councillor, for the question. For this particular case, what we tried to do is put the mobility parking really close to where the existing ramp is. There is opportunity to maybe look at reallocation of parking by utilising that space for the taxi stands. I know that there's a couple, and we've been talking to GWRC about potentially adding in a layover bus stop, because bus drivers need to have their breaks, and there's opportunity to potentially do that as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is my neighbourhood, and I know from being at the library frequently, they use the other taxi stand there as a layover bus stop already, and that the one in front barely gets used. I don't know why that, I think probably you could swap and put the buses in the front one, closer to the actual bus stop, and there's room in that other one for, 4 car parks. And there possibly could be greater provision of mobility parking. So if officers are prepared to have another look at this after this change about what else could be done around there, I just think it's not used very efficiently, that end of Hillary Court, and we're going to have the pool open soon and a new community centre nearby. So there's opportunity to maximise the parking around that area too. So thank you. Oh, and my other question was about Downer Street. It was referred to as a pack and save loading zone. Is that the intention for those big trucks that are coming into Pack and Save to use the loading zone that's on the wrong side of the road?
Sorry, the intention is to have that loading zone for anyone to use it as a loading zone. The intention of this particular one came out of the car dealers that are currently unloading sort of double parking next to those car parks that we're wanting to turn into a loading zone. Pack and Save trucks usually come in from High Street, so for them to use that loading zone would be sort of illegal. We are talking to the Pack and Save. We know there are issues there, and trying to understand how their scheduling works. I think the issue they mainly have is they can't really time trucks. During the day, trucks can sometimes come a bit earlier or a little bit later, depending on how quick they do their runs. but we are working with them to try and improve that scheduling of their trucks. Yeah.
Thank you. That's a very sensible explanation of the loading zone. I can see how the car yards need it as well. And you can see in those photographs the extent of the pack and save problem. I think in the bottom of the two, there's maybe 4 trucks on the road there. So yeah, definitely encourage officers to keep working on a solution for that one. But thank you for your explanation.
Are there any other questions? Just for my own comment, I think that's a very good, sensible suggestion in regards to the mobility parking and taxi cab ramp that you've mentioned in Hillary Court. Stokes Valley, we have a redundant taxi cab as well. I think times are changing, so a relook at that would be great. And also if Pack and Save can space those deliveries out would be really helpful for that particular street. I've been down there and it's pretty congested, so hopefully that will alleviate the situation. So I'd like to move recommendations 1 to 6. That the subcommittee recommends that Council 1 receives and notes the information. 2, approves the installation of 1 loading zone outside number 10 Downer Street, Hutt Central, as shown in Appendix 1. Number 3, approves the relocation of the mobility parking on Hillary Court outside the Nainai Library, as shown in Appendix 2. Number 4, approves the relocation of the mobility parking spaces on 36 High Street, Hutt Central, outside City Fitness, as shown in Appendix 3. Number 5, that it rescinds any previous resolutions pertaining to traffic controls made pursuant to any bylaw to the extent that they conflict with the traffic controls described in the report. And number 6, notes that these parking restrictions will take effect once the appropriate signage and/or road markings have been installed. Can I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Barrett. Is there any member who wishes to speak for or against the motion? As we have, I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. All those against say no. I declare the motion carried. Moving on to item 5B, parking time restriction changes for 1 Myrtle Street and Nainai Shopping Centre, page 15 of the agenda. And would you like to continue, Evandro?
Thank you. Our proposal for the parking restriction, it's going to be during school hours. The main intention is to promote parking turnover during the school hours and best manage the congestion issues.
Oh, just while I think of it too, welcome to Brady Dyer, who's looking very relaxed there. He's joined us on Zoom. Nice to see you, Brady. So does any member have any question of the officers in regards to these matters? Councillor Parkin.
Kia ora, thank you. Through you, Chair. Just wondering what conversations have been had with the school in terms of their current timing and whether or not they're likely to change their start or finish time, or in the process of reviewing that.
Thank you, Councillor. We did ring the school and consult with them, and they were supportive of the change. It's just the duration changes just aligns with the time the school finishes, so it actually helps with the turnover during pickup times.
Thank you. Councillor Mitchell.
Sorry, I missed the introductory comment there when you said during school hours. Were you talking about the Nainai one or the other? Yeah. Sorry.
I was referring to Myrtle Street.
Yep. So it's during school hours and the extended kind of pickup area there.
Any other questions? Okay, just a comment from me. During the agenda meeting, we discussed about the extra mobility park requirement in that particular car park. While this paper speaks to increasing the parking time, which we all agree with, I think it's probably a good idea to have a bit of a look at what else can go on in that area at the same time. And I think there's a genuine need for at least 2 mobility parking spaces in that particular space right outside the medical centre. So if we can consider that in other times when we're looking at these roads. I'd like to move recommendations 1 to 3, that the subcommittee recommends that council notes and receives the report, approves the proposed changes to the Nainai Shops car park adjacent to Nainai Medical Centre from P120 to P180. That's the 13 parking spaces immediately outside the medical centre as attached as Appendix 1 to the report. And 3, approves the proposed changes at 1 Myrtle Street, Hutt Central for the time duration of P5 parking spaces from 2:30 to 3 p.m. to 2:50 to 3:20 p.m. attached as Appendix 2 to the report. Can I have a seconder?
Happy
Yeah.
to second, Chair, but I think if the intention is to have the Myrtle Street one during school hours, we need to amend the recommendation there because it's
Councillor Parkin?
Sorry, I think officers possibly misspoke in that it's during the count, and please feel free to confirm or correct, that it's not during school hours, it's during the school pick-up and drop-off hours rather than the whole time of the school period.
Can you speak to that, Armin?
Yeah, sorry, so it's actually during school days only, so during school holidays, those times don't apply. It's on, yeah, understood.
so that is an amendment we need to add to the recommendation, Chair. It's not in the recommendation currently during school term only.
Let me just have a quick word with John and we'll just look at what that looks like. We'll put that up on the screen just so that we're all happy with the wording. And I'll read it again. Approves the proposed changes at 1 Myrtle Street, Hutt Central for the time duration of P5 parking spaces from 2:30 to 3 p.m. to 2:50 to 3:20 p.m. on school days, attached as Appendix 2 to the report.
Sorry, Chair, just looking at Appendix 2 itself, the appendix actually proposes the restriction also being 8:30 to 9 a.m. So we need to, again, add that into the recommendation.
So if I can just add, so those times are existing times. The only change we're doing is changing the pickup time from what it was 2:30 to 3 to 2:50 to 3:20, but the school days is a new restriction that we need to add to the whole thing. Yep.
Councillor Parkin.
Through you, Chair, for clarity's sake, I think it's worth including that we are keeping the 8:30 till 9 a.m. part of this, just so that it's clear if somebody's reading that there are 2 times plus the on-school days.
Chair, if I can recommend us take a 5-minute break and get the wording sorted and come back.
I think we'll do that. If we can just have a 5-minute break and we'll get that sorted out. Welcome back. We've worked out the wording here, and thank you to those who have raised this. It's now up on the board, and we'll read that again. We approve the proposed changes at 1 Myrtle Street, Hutt Central, for the time duration of P5 parking spaces from 8:30 to 9 a.m, 2:30 to 3 p.m, to 2:50 to 3:20 p.m. on school days only. I'd like to move the amendment to that recommendation.
I think it would be even more clear, Chair, if it just said P5 parking spaces to 8:30 a.m. to 8:30 to 9, take out the next part. Yeah, take out the 2:30 to 3 p.m. Yeah, and change that to an and. Sorry, not the number 2, the word 2. Yeah, so it's just exactly what the sign says, yeah. That's an and, I think, in that.
Okay, so we're happy with that.
Perfect.
P5 parking spaces to 8:30 to 9 a.m. and 2:50 to 3:20 p.m. on school days only. So I'd like to move that amendment to the recommendations. Can I have a seconder for the amendment? Councillor Mitchell. Anyone who wishes to, oh, we can do the whole lot together. Yeah, okay. Going back to the original recommendations, that subcommittee recommends that council notes and receives the report, approves the proposed changes to the Nano Shops car park adjacent to Nano Medical Centre from P20 to 180, P180, 13 parking spaces attached as Appendix 1. And the new amendment approves as already recommended. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Barrett. Anybody who wishes to speak to the motion or against? Councillor Barrett.
Thank you, Chair. And I just wanted to say thank you for doing this around the Myrtle Street area. I've had lots and lots of talks with residents around this area, and by doing this, by making this simple change, it's going to stop a lot of the congestion and, you know, people trying to beat the traffic, pick up their kids and, you know, have to wander around the neighbourhoods looking for parks in a limited amount of time. So this is a good solution, I feel. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Barrett. Councillor Mitchell.
Thank you. I'm very happy to support these particular changes, but just as you brought up yourself, Chair, to request that officers have a broader look at the mobility car parks that are in the same car park outside the pharmacy and doctor's clinic there. I know this has been raised with me and with the Mayor by a local disability advocacy group called Wheels and Canes in the past, asking council to take a closer look at those ones. And when you do have a look at them, you know, there are a couple at either end of the bay, closest to the shops. There's actually a couple on the other side of the car park too that then require people to cross through the traffic of the car park. So I think there's probably a much more sensible solution in general to those mobility parks in Nainai if officers could take a look at that in future. Thank you.
Thank you. As we have a mover and a seconder, put the motion. All those in favour say aye. All those against, no. I declare the motion carried. Moving on to item 5C, broken yellow lines, no stopping at all times under traffic resolution, Guinness Street and Oxford Terrace, Parliament Street and Marine Drive, page 24 of the agenda. I should note that for the record, we received an email at 1 o'clock today from N. Caddis. All committee people have received this email and it's been tabled and added to the minutes. Armin and Evandro, if you'd like to speak to the paper.
Yep. The proposals for the no stopping at all times, also known as broken lines, are being proposed today at the intersection of Guinness Street with Oxford Terrace to improve the visibility for drivers accessing and exiting the intersection, and also to make it safer for large vehicles such as rubbish trucks to access the road. For Parliament Street, we are proposing broken lines to promote a better experience for cyclists and also as a future-proof connection to a project relates to Riverlink. So we want to improve active mode shift in the area. And for Marine Drive, we have received feedback from the public for further improvements to our cycle lane facility that was implemented. So we have proposed some broken lines to enable a better view for cyclists in relation to drivers. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any members have a question of the officers? Councillor Mitchell.
Yeah, I had a couple of questions. First about Parliament Street, and the proposal there is to remove 5 car parks which are outside a block of flats. I don't know if those flats are currently tenanted or still resided in, but have the residents there all been consulted?
Yes, Councillor, all the residents were consulted and we have received positive feedback from all of them.
Thank you, and that feedback seemed to be largely positive. I'm just looking at the map on page 30. We're still leaving a couple of car parks further down Parliament Street. Are they going to be removed as well at some stage? Unless those cars are parked illegally. Closer to the bridge there that you can see them in the photo, those couple of cars parked there?
I guess there are existing broken yellow lines over there. Yes, there are existing broken yellow lines, so it's illegally.
So they are parked illegally.
Yes.
Thank you. My other question was about the Marine Drive one, the appendix on page 31. And in particular around the markings, there's a proposal there to install broken yellow lines on the front of the park and also on the side of the park, which I think is a bit unusual for drivers to experience that. I wondered why that park wasn't being filled with yellow hatching, and then noticed that is what was proposed when we consulted on this. So wondering why that had been changed and what the best solution there is.
Yeah. The decision to change to broken lines is to highlight that it is illegal to park in the space. With hatching, drivers could potentially not see the broken lines and therefore continue to park.
But the hatching means that you can't park there, doesn't it? You can't drive into that space.
Yes, however, from an enforcement point of view, officers would be able to do the enforcement with broken lines, not necessarily with hatching.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, that makes sense, I guess. I just think it's a bit less visible. I know at particular times of year, people are going crazy around there looking for car parks, and if they see an open one, they'll probably drive into it and not realise until they're halfway in that they can't park there, if they realise at all. So I guess we could keep an eye on that one.
Councillor Parkin.
Yeah, similar comments to Councillor Mitchell. Have officers thought about actually installing a physical barrier to block off that area so that we don't have that risk of people parking there? And also, have officers thought about actually turning a smaller portion of that into a bike park, which would make better use of that and still allow the freedom of access?
Thank you, Councillor. That's something we could definitely consider. For this particular, I guess, paper, we're just trying to clear that spot, just so cyclists can actually disembark safely. We could potentially look at cycle racks or something to utilise that area. Yep.
Councillor Mitchell.
Yeah, just one further question. Councillor Shaw referred to an email we received, and I believe that particular person had responded in the survey and has emailed council separately about signage in this area. They live over the road and they see the issues there. And their email today said that they understood that it was outside of the scope of this particular paper, but are officers or the Alliance who are building that cycleway working to take that residents' concerns into consideration?
Through you, Madam Chair, we haven't actually, well, I haven't seen the letter from today, so unable to have a look, but the Alliance scope of works, basically, that's the end of it at that end. So we can consider additional signage as part of the safety improvements down this end, as part of our BAU, yeah.
Okay, today's one was a follow-up to an email that was at least sent to, I think, all councillors. I certainly received. Happy to forward that on to you. There was more detail in the original one, I think, than today's was just a kind of follow-up referring to today's meeting.
Are there any other questions? Just a comment from me. I think it makes really good sense to have more space to disembark the shared pathway. It's going to be a safety feature, and given the amount of people currently using that shared path, it's something that's really needed. So thank you for that. Okay. Right, so I move recommendations 1 to 6, that the subcommittee recommends Council 1 receives and notes the information, 2 approves the no stopping at all times parking restriction near the intersection of Guinness Street and Oxford Terrace, Avalon, as shown in Appendix 1 attached to the report. Number 3 approves the no stopping at all times parking restriction between 1 Bridge Street and 24 Parliament Street, Melling, as shown in Appendix 2 attached to the report. Number 4 approves the no stopping at all times parking restriction near the end of the newly built shared path opposite 618 and 619 Marine Drive, Days Bay, as shown in Appendix 3. Number 5 rescinds any previous resolutions pertaining to traffic controls made pursuant to any bylaw to the extent that they conflict with the traffic controls described in the report, and notes that these parking restrictions will take effect once the appropriate signage and or road markings have been installed. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Mitchell. Debate. Is there any member who wishes to speak to the motion? Councillor Briggs.
Thank you, Chair. Speaking briefly to the Marine Drive example, I think it's well highlighted that, you know, where we're having cyclists and other road users coming into a conflict area, as is being displayed in this situation, we need to, one, avoid that in the first place whenever we're putting in new infrastructure, but look to remedy it, which I think today is a partial remedy to the situation. I agree with the questioning of members around how do we make sure that space isn't utilised anyway by vehicles, and I think it may be more enforceable with some broken yellow lines, but the reality is it'll probably be used by vehicles regardless. And so until it's actually made inaccessible to motor vehicles, it will still be clogged up, particularly during peak summer hours. It's also, I think that the point is true as well around people won't be able to see the yellow lines until they're already been sitting there in traffic to try and indicate to get into that park. And then them trying to then get out of the park causes another hazard while there's still cyclists coming off the cycle path at the same time. So it's how do we best manage it going forward? And I think, again, today's steps is in the right direction, but some physical barriers to prevent collision will be well received, I think, for everyone's safety. The second part to it as well, I know there's been a lot of discussion about this in the community around the bays, and it's kind of how do we then put out the comms around this change as well, to make sure that the community that are there regularly are aware of this change, and not just the ones that live in close proximity. So I'm getting nods from John, so thank you, John, for taking that up with the comms team, and look forward to this being a more safer area for all road users as well.
Thank you, Councillor Briggs, and Councillor Dyer wishes to say something.
Yeah, I have the exact same thoughts as Councillor Briggs. He said it probably much better than I will, but I just do really question how this came to be for such a new cycleway. It doesn't, to me, seem best practice not having sharers on the main road as well. So I think we do need to look at this. I'm happy to support it now because it does need to be fixed. But I think we do need to be looking at this bit here. I don't see why having a metre earlier and removing one of those bollards wouldn't fix all the issues. But I feel like there does need to be green paint actually through Marine Drive, and we do need to start thinking about how using a shared pathway are actually going to get through those shops.
Thank you, Councillor Dyer. I think both Councillor Briggs and Dyer make some very good points. We have a mover and a seconder. I'd like to put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Anyone against? I declare the motion carried. Moving on to item 5D, ad hoc bus stop improvements on page 48 of the agenda. And we have all the officers at the table already. Would you like to add to the paper?
Our proposal is to formalize the bus stops by implementing entry and exit tapers to make it safer for bus drivers to safely access their bus stops. And also to highlight to drivers the fact that it is illegal to park on a bus stop. So with the bus boxes, we should be able to undertake enforcement once the traffic resolution gets approved.
Sorry, I just want to add to that as well. For Railway Ave, there's potentially been an omission on our side, apologies, but that particular car park next to the dairy, we would like to have that P10 rather than currently it looks like it's an unrestricted car park being proposed. So apologies, might need to make some changes to the recommendations. Sorry.
That's on Railway Ave, is it? Okay. Right, if we can just have a short recess and I'll discuss this with John, like appropriate wording. Thank you. All right, we've corrected a slight anomaly. Back in again. It's up on the board for you. What I'll do is pass them. Here we go.
Sorry, Chair, we haven't had questions on this paper yet.
We'll do that. Are there any questions of members? Thank you. Councillor Mitchell.
Yeah, I did have one question, and it was about Railway Avenue, just to check that the business at 21 Railway Avenue has been consulted about this. They appear to be losing 4 car parks right at the front of their business.
Thank you, Councillor. Yeah, the GWRC conducted the consultation, and as far as we know, they have been consulted with no feedback.
Can you put that up on the screen? There we go. Recommendations. I move recommendations 1 to 4, that the subcommittee recommends that council 1 notes and receives a report, 2 approves the proposed changes on bus stop 9155 on Renwick Road outside 95, attached as Appendix 1 to the report. Number 3, with new wording, approves the proposed changes on bus stop 9106 on Railway Ave outside 21 as a new car park as P10, attached as Appendix 2 to the report. And number 4, approves the proposed changes on bus stop 0910 on Herbert Street outside 10, attached as Appendix 3 to the report. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Mitchell. Is there any member who wishes to speak for or against the motion? As we have a mover and a seconder, I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Anyone against, no. I declare the motion carried. All right, we're moving on to item 5E, Route 110 bus stop improvements, which are page 54 of the agenda. And I note that Luke Bennett from Greater Wellington Regional Council is here to ask any questions if needed. Would any of the officers like to add anything to the paper?
Nothing else to be added.
Does any member have a question of the officers? Councillor Mitchell.
Yeah, I just had one question. So thank you for the very thorough work. I know there are a lot of bus stops in here, and I only got one question about it, which is about the one on Victoria Street, number 8111. And there was a bit of, I think it was in the media at one stage about the bus stop being proposed outside another shop nearby, and it's been moved, which is great to see. The appendix proposes reallocating the 3 parking spaces to number 46 Victoria Street. Is the intention that they will remain, I think those current parks are unrestricted, will they remain unrestricted when they're shifted?
Thank you, councillor. Yeah, that's the plan. It would remain unrestricted going forward unless council wishes to change that.
Are there any other questions? Okay, so I will move these in block. I move recommendations items number 1 to 26. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Barrett. Is there anybody who wishes to speak for or against the motion? Councillor Mitchell?
Yeah, just to speak again to that particular change, because I know there was some concern from the business owner and various people involved. So thank you for taking that feedback on board and shifting that bus stop. I think they now go from having a few short-term parks they were going to lose to actually gaining those longer-term parks nearby to their shop as well. So I think it's a good result. They'll be happy with that result too. So thank you for that change.
As we have a mover and a seconder, I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. All those against say no. I declare the motion carried. We're on to the final item, number 6, the Traffic Subcommittee Forward Programme for 2024 on page 78 of the agenda. Does any member have a question regarding items on the Forward Programme? A note here from John next to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So just for members, just noting, firstly, Councillor Dyer, the Beltway, formalising the cycle-only path, that work is underway, and we hope to bring that to the next traffic subcommittee meeting. We're just working through the process on that. The other Waterloo to CBD, the street lighting, micromobility ones, as you know, are tied to funding. So we're waiting for the government policy statement on those to see confirm funding on those from Waka Kotahi before we can make any decisions on when they may come back. So.
Thank you, John. Question, Councillor Mitchell.
Yeah, sorry, John, just a quick question. The pedestrian crossings that are referred to in this paper, are they any crossings in particular that we're already working on?
Through you, Madam Chair. Thanks, Councillor. That's a holding topic because we're doing so many. So quite a few came through the committee over the last couple of months, couple of cycles. So much like bus stop improvements, they're generally fairly regular. Yes.
And a question I have of you also, John, if you don't mind, in regards to the Eastern Hutt Road tidy up with the project due to be finished in March 24, will that be brought forward as well?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So yes, the works on the initial slips are due to be completed by the end of March, and we'll be finished with resurfacing works. So we'll be redoing that corridor because it's been pretty damaged over the last sort of 2 years. But once yes, that'll be done and finished by the end of March, and then we're just, as part of the future, we're looking at the longer term resilience of the corridor, and we'll be providing an update on that work to council in the coming months.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? I move the recommendations in front of you that the subcommittee receives the notes of forward program for 2024 attached as Appendix 1 to the memorandum. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Briggs. I'm a mover and a seconder. I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Anyone against? No. I declare the motion carried. We have received no questions. If you'd like to join me in the closing karakia coming on your screen right now. Unuhia, unuhia. Unuhia e te uru tapinui, kia wātia, kia mama, te nāko, te tinana, te wairua e te ara takatu. Koe rā e rongo whakarehia a ke kirunga, kia wātia, ai rā, kua wātia, hau pai marere. And I declare the meeting closed at 2:47. Thank you very much, everybody.